Welcome to web scraping and working with Excel files. Web scraping. The internet contains a huge amount of data. And again, we can basically harvest those data from the internet using basically scrapings and parsers, right? So, um, web scraping can be done manually and automated as well. And again, why do you want to scrape data? For various reasons, for research, for comparisons, for and so on and so forth. Let's say you do want to check on different tennis rackets, right? You could basically use a web scraping um, program so that you can, let's say, grab the item name and the price, right? Without even going to the websites. Again, web scraping is a way to get information, including images, prices, numbers, you name it, right? You can do that in any website as well, the e-commerce, travel sites, social media. And again, once we scrape that data, we do want to process that, right, so that it's usable to us, right? A technique to extract large amount of data to local file in your computer or in DB as a form of XML, HTML, CSV, DB. So the question is web scraping legal? It itself it's not illegal, but again it depends on some of them would say that it is illegal though, and it really depends on the website as well with the terms of use. Um, Again, if a website gets to be web scraped a lot all the time, it could be requesting a lot of resource for that server, and it could basically put the server down, which is a denial of service, right? And another one is misuse of information, right, to your advantage. Maybe getting that same item, same product, and putting it to your own e-commerce site with the tennis rackets as well. So the basic steps for web scraping, one is it basically would traverse through the document object model tree, right? Starting from the root, which is the document, and it could go down and search for text or elements and so on and so forth, right? So there's an example to write some program, right? And let's see. So if let's say you do have this website and you want to output that in your terminal or your console, and you can then also maybe save it to an Excel sheet. Okay, so you do want to load input document source such as an HTML, right? Use the web browser and request library of Python. You parse the input source using the BeautifulSoup Python library. Extract wanted string and numbers based on your own specification, right? You now use the Python standard library to, let's say, split the string and split the arrays, and then presenting the data after you process the information in Excel or CSV. So we do have what we call the web browser. Again, web browser module allows you to have a interface to display web-based document, right, such as HTML or XML to the client or user, right? It could be used to launch a browser. So if you have a web browser module and you use some of the methods, it will basically open a browser. Let's say a Chrome driver, it will open a Chrome browser, and it will also notify. It will show a notification there that it's currently using an automated tool, right? Again, some websites would know that you're using a web scraping and they would block it, right? So here's an example with the web browser and then the .get method, and you can specify which browser you're going to use. Let's see, and this is a code to check out, and let's say you wanna open up a web browser with the google.com. Request module allows us to do HTTP calls. So we've been interacting with websites and we do HTTP requests, right? If we want to view something or read something, that's basically an HTTP get. So let's say you went into Amazon.com right? You see the products, that's basically a get request. Let's say you click a product to see more of the product information. That's another get request to get that information about a certain product. And let's say once you wanna post data, meaning you wanna, let's say, purchase that, right? You essentially would click the buy, and that buy would basically do a transaction, and it basically posts the data of that transaction to their own database as well, right? Another example of a post request is, let's say you have an input form of your login user information, or let's say your profile information. Then when you click submit, that basically is a post request. You submit the whole data, and the server will process that. Okay. So Beautiful Soup is a Python library for pulling out of HTML and XML files. So it is a parser. Okay. So it can extract wanted strings and numbers based on your specification. There's another one module called the OpenPyXL. It's used to manipulate them in the Excel file to present the data after processing the information. Right. So here's a code, and let me just move around this one. Okay. So you would see the first line is importing the library, both the Beautiful Soup and the request library. You want to assign the request.get method. The response will basically get a response object and assign it to the source variable. And then the next couple of lines is basically we do want to open an HTML, right, as a file, right, and basically assign a Beautiful Soup parser with these parameters, and XLML as the second parameter, and assign it to soup. And now you can print the soup to see what it holds, the object information it holds, and so on and so forth. So you can prettify it so it basically looks better. Show the title, the text, the H1. So now you're parsing through the HTML document object model, right? So now there's another here where there's a comment, there's div. You can also find, let's say, a class footer or an article that matches that class name, and so on and so forth, right? So here, let's see, it's the same thing. Then let's say you want to print the summary, the article element in the HTML. Let's say there's a nested p tag as well in text, right? You want to get the text. You can also find all the a tag with the find all method from the Beautiful Soup object that was instantiated, and you can pass a string a to the node that you do want to extract all the a tag or a element. And this is basically using the for loop, the for in keyword. Let's say you do want to get each href which pertains to the a tag, and you want to iterate over all that you got, which is here, and print that each of them. And you can do this similar step in this one. So reading an Excel file, you want to install the module, then import the module, right? Then you can use the module to load the file name. You open that file, right? And now you can maneuver inside of the Excel file to do all sorts of operations, which you can also do in the Excel app, right? So to access cells, you basically want to define the worksheet and the cell, right? Once you have the worksheet object, you can access the rows and columns and cells. And also you can iterate over those with using the max row, so that you only access the end of the rows. Right now you can basically do a sheet.cell to print out that value with the dot value as well. And here's a demo importing the library. You assign open up the example that XLS and assign the values or the whole sheet to WB, right? And with that dot sheet names method, it will return the list of worksheets, and you can access a sheet with using the square brackets and the sheet name, checking the max row, the max column, and so on and so forth, right? So this is pretty straightforward with knowing for loops and iterating over the values in an object. So go ahead and try this out. So here's a challenge. So let's say you do have a file with 1 to 50, right? As shown below. No, you don't have a file. You need to create a program that will basically create an Excel file and populate it like this. Okay, so let's see. You can try to also use the BeautifulSoup to maneuver through the HTML document to parse. Maybe use it to extract headline summary and YouTube link, right? And you can use the for loop to, if you have multiple entries, so that you can access each of the entry. And again, we do want to process it further, so we can send it to a CSV file. And here's an example, right? You did find all of the href as same as the previous example, and now you do want to incorporate that to the workbook, the Excel sheet work sheets. And as you can see, let's see this one for articles and articles to iterate over each article. And let's see, and this one now is basically assigning each of the heading of the article, meaning the text that we got from the H2A ref, right? We assign it to each of the row, right? And we basically want to move on each row and column so that we basically populate it, and instead of overwriting the same row and column. Then the last part is basically to save it as a new Excel file. Okay. Any questions that you have, please message me in MS Teams. And thank you, and enjoy this Excel and web parsing and web scraping exercise.